What's up, everyone? It's Brian here from the Exact IT Solutions YouTube channel, and welcome to another video where we try to educate you about all the things going on out there around cybersecurity. I want to thank you for your patience. First off, I haven't been able to upload a video in a while. If you can tell, I have a different background. We're kind of designing a little bit of a YouTube studio here. I've basically been doing these YouTube videos from my desk. And we've switched things around a little bit and ended up getting a new computer and all this other crazy stuff. So don't want to bore you with the details, but the reality of it is that we're building a YouTube kind of a studio. So the videos hopefully should get better. My background is going to be a little bit different. That's one of the things you're going to notice. And that's really it. It's just going to help us streamline and be able to get more videos out more quickly to you all. Around the cybersecurity stuff. So that's about it. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel and our videos. It really helps out the algorithm a lot. And here's what I'm going to get into today. So today, Gigabyte, the big computer manufacturer, computer components manufacturer, has been hit by ransomware. We'll take a look at that. Atera was hit a few months ago. I did a video on that. You can check that out in one of the videos from earlier. But Gigabyte was hit. We're going to jump into that. We also have attackers that are exploiting a router, a common router that's out there. Well, it's actually a kind of an old router, but they're exploiting routers. I'm going to explain what's going on there and what you need to be aware of. The Conti ransomware playbook. They are going after a particular MSP's RMM. Now, if you remember, that RMM, the remote monitoring and management tool, was the big thing that the hackers were after in the Kaseya attack. Well, we have another similar tool that is under attack by a particular ransomware group, and I'm going to jump into that. And then I'm going to talk about some malvertising that's been discovered. I'm going to explain what malvertising is if you don't know what it is, and I'm going to explain to you what they're going after because it relates to other videos that I've talked about in the past around your Internet of Things devices, your smart home type stuff that you're going to want to pay attention to and pay attention to. And the last thing is the Binance CEO just stepped down, and there's some interesting wording in an article I found. And I want to jump into that as the last topic of discussion for today and really get into it. But I really am excited to bring you guys more videos since we've built our studio. We streamlined things out, and I really hope you guys drop some comments down in the comment section about things you want to see me do or things you want to hear me talk about on the channel, any questions that you have. But again, like and subscribe. Remember, like and subscribe to our channel. So without further ado, let's jump into the content for today. All right, so here we go. So the first thing I mentioned I was going to talk about here is the Gigabyte is hit by ransomware from this RansomX organization. I honestly have never heard of them before, but I have it up here on the screen. The Gigabyte was hit by a ransomware attack, and it's the Taiwanese technology company Gigabyte was a target of a ransomware assault. The attack is the work of a hacker organization, RansomX, which has threatened to disclose critical information from the firm. Now, the article goes on to say that double extortion is involved here. We have 112 gigabytes of data that was taken from the network of Gigabyte. Now, Gigabyte, if you don't know, they make motherboards and other kinds of components for computers. As I mentioned in the intro, the Acer was hit in a similar fashion not too long ago. And now this company, Gigabyte, has been hit. And Bleeping Computer is usually the website that is tipped off around these types of things. They have 4 screenshots of papers covered by a non-disclosure agreement that had been sent, and a debug guide for American Megatrends products was included in one of the documents, while other coveted possible problems with Intel products, the Ice Lake D SKU update timetable, and the AMD revision guide. So basically what's going on here is, like, AMD, it makes motherboards for the most part. Or I'm sorry, Gigabyte makes motherboards for the most part. They're known for their motherboards. what has to go into a motherboard, an Intel chip or a processor, or it could be an AMD chip. And these companies work closely together to talk about vulnerabilities in their system, or they talk about problems, because Gigabyte's technology needs to work with all these other components that are made by other manufacturers. So it's important that they play nice together so that when they go to market with their products, there aren't issues and problems. So there can be a lot gained here by these hackers by stealing information from Gigabyte, where they can learn about other vulnerabilities and other information. Another supply chain type of attack could be underway here, where these criminal hackers are learning from Gigabyte from the data that they were able to steal. So not only do we have a manufacturer of computers who's down and who is unable to produce these boards, basically, now we have the potential that somebody has information about other components within a computer. Very important components, might I add. Processors, chips, things like that. Things that you really don't want getting infected, because quite frankly, you can wipe Windows and get rid of a lot of problems by just wiping the operating system. There's not a whole heck of a lot you can do if one of these pieces of firmware for one of these chips gets compromised. You basically have to throw out the equipment, and that's not a good situation. So the article goes on to state that the local authorities were also made aware of the situation, and it's unclear whether the hacking collective's claim will be taken into consideration, as well as what precisely it includes. And they just go in and they show some screenshots. The other interesting thing about this is, if you're a dark web person or a person who follows the dark web, they got the information, I believe, from a defunct dark web site, or at least one that we thought was no longer operational. And it appears that it is operational because they have the Gigabyte information on that site. So, interestingly enough, Gigabyte's been hit. Hopefully they get through it, and hopefully, this information that they were able to steal and gain from other companies doesn't get out there too bad. So we also have now an attack on routers. Routers that are basically in people's homes, and a lot of these are in these are routers that are in people's homes for the most part. These are not things that you would typically find in a business unless you are installing, unless you're like a small office, home office, Soho type operation where you might have went to Best Buy or installed like a ISP issued modem, and you don't have a business grade type firewall or modem in your environment. So Tenable researcher Evan Grant publicly disclosed a vulnerability which has been assigned CVE 2021-290, or 290, along with several other security flaws. Juniper said it identified some attack patterns that attempt to exploit this vulnerability in the wild, coming from an IP address located in Wuhan, China. Basically, they're using a botnet, which is basically a group of computers programmed to do something. And in this case, they're using these botnets to do a high-profile distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of these devices are home-based routers, and I'm going to try to pull up the company and try to grab it real quick here. Public IP address. Yeah. I don't know if I can find the article right off the bat, but I did have an article, a list of the devices that are actually affected. A lot of them were like ASUS devices, and really devices that most people probably wouldn't be buying in the store. There wasn't a lot of Linksys or Netgear on here, and I'm having difficulty finding it right now, and I apologize for not having it up ahead of time. But basically, it's a vulnerability that allows hackers to bypass the authentication mechanisms used by wireless routers made by a company called Arcadian. So if Arcadian was used in your router, then you probably have this vulnerability. So you just have to check to see whether your router, now this isn't the router type. Arcadian is just the software that's used within the router. So many routers use this particular technology within their devices to manage the wireless. So vulnerable routers, probably incomplete list. So here we go. I have the routers. I could probably pull them up here quickly. Here we go. This is what I wanted to show you guys. So here's the list. ADB, Arcadian, ASMax, Asus. There's a lot on here. Here are the model numbers. I will link to this in the description below when we post the video. But this is the list of routers that is affected by this particular vulnerability that was mentioned here in PC Magazine. So moving along, we have the Conti ransomware gang, and they're back. And there's some chatter on the dark web, that deep dark place where nobody ever really wants to go, even though there's not really a whole lot going on around there, and it kind of looks like the internet from 1997. But anyway, they are saying that there's chatter about them being able to take control of or exploit a certain RMM or vulnerability now, or vulnerability in an RMM. Now, RMMs are tools that managed service providers, MSPs, use to manage their clients. It's kind of like the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. If you can get access to this tool, you can usually get access to hundreds or thousands of systems all at once, and you can deploy things like ransomware very quickly using one of these tools if you can get full and unfettered access to them. And there's a company out there called Atera that develops a cloud-based RMM, and there's some chatter on the internet that there's potentially a vulnerability around this RMM. Now, the RMM has basically what it says here is there's a playbook that was leaked by ethical hacker Vitaly Kremez, and he tweeted a warning for network administrators looking for Conti activity to scan for unauthorized Atera agent installations and AnyDesk persistence. Atera develops a cloud-based RMM and PSA for MSPs, and they raised $77 million in July 2021 and serves roughly 7,000 customers across 90 countries. And separately, AnyDesk Software of Germany provides most desktop software. So the playbook released that you were referencing speaks to the fact that bad actors have attempted to use remote solutions to maintain persistence to unsecured networks for illegal or illegitimate purposes. That said, Atera has not been compromised in any way, and the platform remains secure. We are aware of the security threats in the industry, and we continuously monitor to ensure our platform and our customers are secure. We encourage MSPs to follow proper security measurements, which we are continuously sharing with our community. And then we got Wes Spencer here, the CISO of Perch Security, and he has gone on to state that there is no evidence, threat intelligence, or indication of Atera being directly compromised. Conti, in some cases, prefer to leverage Atera in their attack process to streamline their attack process. But other tools are also known to be used. Threat actors have long used legitimate tools as part of their attacks. We commonly refer to these as TTPs, as living off the land. Threat actors prefer legitimate tools that are either built in, company approved, or installed by the threat actor, given that they are not malicious in and of themselves. This tactic allows the threat actor greater ability to operate without detection. In fact, this is why RMMs have become the tool of choice for a threat actor, or buffalo jumps. The buffalo jumps is a term frequently used by Perch Security. It describes how hackers compromise a specific target in order to target and ultimately access multiple customers and partners. So that would be like targeting MSPs or buffalo jumping, right? So you would target an MSP in order to buffalo jump to their customers and get to their customers because you know they have access to a lot of customers. Perch is owned by ConnectWise, just in full disclosure, which is technically a competitor to Atera. But I can tell you, I got to meet with Wes last week one-on-one, which was really cool. Wes is a good dude. I hope he appreciates the shout out in this video. And ConnectWise is a competitor to Atera, and Atera has not been compromised here. It's just that these Conti actors have decided to use this tool in order to remain active on somebody's system. So we talk about this persistent access, or when hackers get onto your system, they try to deploy other things, other tools, other backdoors, so they can maintain that access. If you find the initial access pathway, you close that off, they still have other ways to get in. And they're using these tools like Atera and Ndesk and TeamViewer and ConnectWise Control to maintain access to these networks that they get their hands on. So it appears that's what we have here with this apparent warning from this Twitter ethical hacker, Vitaly Kremez. You can go check out his tweet. You can Google his name here or Google his Twitter and look up what he tweeted. I'm not going to pull that up here. So we're going to jump into some malvertising. So malvertising, just so you know what that is basically it's using legitimate advertising networks. Like when you go to CNN.com or any major website that runs ads on the side, they're buying usually from an ad network. They don't have their own kind of advertising platform where you can go to like CNN's advertising section and buy ads from them. They are working with an advertising network to run those ads, and then anybody can really get in touch with these advertising network companies and start deploying their ads to these various websites across the internet. And that's exactly what these hackers are doing. They're contacting these advertising networks. And before you say, well, whoa, your knee-jerk reaction is going to be, why aren't the advertising networks policing this? Well, the advertising networks really can't tell when somebody's injecting malicious code through an ad. It's really not something that they have the technology to do right now. Not saying that that's not going to be a thing that comes in the future. But right now, there's a lot of different ways that you can inject code through an advertisement, right? So advertisements typically use things like JavaScript and Java, and those things need scripts and scripting language and code to run. And when you see those ads move around and they have animation and stuff like that, that all requires a special level of code. That's why when you have ad blockers, these things, you don't see them, they don't run because it blocks that kind of stuff. And these hackers and these cybercriminals are using these advertising platforms to deploy the malware. So once they do that, all they have to do is get on a particular device and deploy and get their ad to run on your device. So let's talk about your Google Homes, your Amazon Alexas, your Alexa shows that actually have the screens. If they can get their ads to kind of run on your device or these devices and deploy their malware, they can look for vulnerabilities either on your network or on that device themselves to try to take over. So basically, as the article states, malvertising spreads malware through the injection of malicious code into online display ads via online advertising networks, exposing user networks and connected devices to the potential risk of infection. As it states, advertising networks are generally unaware that they're serving malicious content. In these new IoT-based instances, and this is what I want to point out, is that I've been talking about this for months and months, that your home is going to become a target for ransomware and hostage and takeover when you can't unlock your doors and you can't turn on your lights because you've installed smart home devices throughout your home and smart home switches. And it's not so easy to go back to conventional type technology and conventional type switches. You put a smart switch, a smart light switch in your house, you're probably going to need an electrician to come in and swap that out if you want to get that out of there. And And you know, once installed, the malware can manipulate IoT devices, download apps without users' consent, and enable possible theft of personal information and monetary instruments, as well as tampering with home systems, such as smart locks and surveillance cameras. Exactly what I said. There's a thing out there called man-in-the-middle attacks. And if these hackers can get control of these devices, they can literally turn one of your smart bulbs or your firewalls or anything that they really can get their hands on that's exploitable. They can turn them into man-in-the-middle type devices, which means any traffic your computer or your phone sends over your network that might be going through that device, or that device may be able to pick it up out of the air, they can see it, they can read it, they can look at it, especially if it's unencrypted. And there are some technologies that allow them to unencrypt things, depending on how things are set up, configured, and what have you. So really going to have to start taking a look at what you're doing in your home. Run ad blockers, try to block as many things, get a router in your home that actually detects vulnerabilities and things like that. There are pretty decent routers out there that will at least do a basic level of detecting this kind of bad activity in your home. If your router was built, say, in the last 12 months, you probably have this level of technology if you spent at least $300 or more on your home router. But ad blockers, endpoint protection, content control, making sure that websites that are malicious are automatically being blocked either by your firewall or the endpoint protection on your computer. These are all ways that can help if you end up in a situation where an attacker, you know, is able to look at your devices and potentially, you know, maybe want to take them over one day or use them for bad stuff. Last thing I want to talk about, not really super cybersecurity related, but it is related. Binance is, the CEO stepped down. He stepped down on Friday. And the only reason I want to bring this up is because while we don't have any kind of hard evidence around the fact that Binance was used in the Colonial Pipeline transfer of money when that whole thing went down, we do have that Colonial Pipeline was kind of mentioned in this article. And I'm not saying it's related, but we're seeing a lot of crypto CEOs step down as a result, because governments are starting to take a hard look at who is doing business and what are they doing on these platforms. And a lot of the governments are starting to look at these Binance companies like Binance and Coinbase as places for, like, what do you know about this user, and what are they doing, and what is their activity? And the whole idea behind cryptocurrency was you were supposed to be able to hide that stuff. And these crypto exchanges have all that information under the hood. And now investigators and the government are coming in and they're saying, we want to have a look at this stuff. And they're putting laws on the books, and they're making things in life very difficult for these companies to do things under the premise of anonymity, which was really the foundation for cryptocurrency in the beginning. So fundamentally, it seems like there's a shift going on between the people who have certain beliefs about what crypto is supposed to be and what crypto is now becoming. And I think the people who thought crypto was going to be anonymous and supposed to be like an anonymous ledger type thing are starting to see that that's not how this cookie is going to crumble in the future. And they're stepping out and they're getting out of the game now before they get too deep into it and really have to answer to a lot of government people that, you know, probably these people don't want to be getting in front of, because A, quite frankly, A, they don't know, and B, this really isn't supposed to be what crypto was. And now the government, you got the Commodity Future Trading Commission, the FTC, the SEC, and probably everybody in Congress going after these guys and wanting to have answers. And at the end of the day, when the government comes knocking, you have to answer. You have to answer the door. You have to spend time, money, and resource, or put effort into these questions that are being asked of you. And some companies might not be prepared for that, even at the early startup phase. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to bring this up because crypto is a big piece of ransomware, and we're starting to see people taking the tack that if we can attack crypto or we can attack Bitcoin, we can also attack ransomware at the same time. I personally don't agree with that. I believe that these criminal hackers will find other ways to get you to pay them. It may cause ransomware payments to come down from the millions to the hundreds of thousands or the tens of thousands. And it may take longer for you to get the decryptors back from the criminals, because maybe you have to do transfers, 10 or 12 transfers before you get your keys unlocked to unlock your data, where right now you can just do it in one shot. But there's going to be ways. They're going to figure out ways around the systems, just like they always have before crypto, and just like they always will after the government steps in and puts all kinds of regulations on this stuff, using ransomware as one of the reasons why they have to do it. So that's my input for today, folks. If you have any questions, comments, drop them down below. Remember, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll bring you more stuff about the stuff I know around cybersecurity. So hope you all have a good one. I'll see you all on the next video. Take care. Bye.